you have some, I guess, some other folks that want to watch on Facebook, yeah, just tell them log in and he'll be bringing them all in.
Okay, wonderful.
So on this screen here, we'll just, I mean, whoever's on this screen here will be able to chat with you if they decide to. Facebook and YouTubers will just be watching you.
Yeah, and I kind of monitor if they have questions, I can
Yeah,
relay them to you.
yeah. So you'll have an external audience on 3 different platforms. And so yeah, so just teach away.
Wonderful. I'm looking
And this
forward.
should be interesting considering that the market right now is a seller's market. So they say.
It is a seller's market, firm seller's market. We have very low inventory and very high demand.
Yeah, okay. I was watching some reports on TV. They were talking about, you know, some of the prices are a little, a little high in some areas. But I'm sure you'll talk to us about that.
I will. I plan on sharing some current data with regard to where we are in our marketplace and probably some statistics that will really surprise people. I'm
Okay.
guessing that most people are either in the Detroit metropolitan area, Southeast Michigan.
Hmm.
Okay, so
So it'll be a wide variety because we posted this for Detroit, Clinton Township. We posted it globally. So you'll have a lot of people from all over. Most of the people from our church are Macomb County, Clinton Township, but outside of our church, I'm not sure what region. I know we hit every county, I think within maybe 50 to 100 miles of our location. And so I think we reached over maybe 2,000, maybe 2,500 folks we reached. So not sure if you're gonna get 2,500 folks, but that's how many we did reach.
wonderful.
Yeah. So in our posting, so
So do I just wait for you to
yeah, I'm gonna introduce you at 6, and then we're gonna go for it. Is it 6 yet?
it's 6 o'clock?
It is six
Yeah.
o'clock right
All
now.
right. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hour of Power. This is our weekly empowerment seminar that we have come up with, and we want to empower people through the sharing of information. And tonight we have a special guest. I'm going to introduce her as our HGTV celebrity host, celebrity star. She'll probably sign some autographs if you want. Jaye Sanders, and she is going to come and school us and teach us on real estate updates, the do's and some of the don'ts, and so we can learn and become better. So listen, I'm talking to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Get your pencils out, get your paper out, and get ready. If you have some questions, you're more than happy to chat with us on the Zoom. If it's still not too late to log in on the Zoom, you can chat on the Zoom. You can get questions answered also on Facebook. So we thank you so much, and let's welcome our host tonight, our special guest tonight, Jaye Sanders. Jaye, how are you?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be a part of this discussion about real estate here in Southeastern Michigan. And I'm looking forward to an interactive experience where people can learn and ask questions.
All right, so we're excited. So Jaye, it's all yours. The audience is everyone's prepared. We are listening to you now. So tell us about real estate. This next 60 minutes is yours. Teach us about real estate. We're all ears.
Wonderful. Let me set the stage for how I'd like to prepare us. I'd like to open with a scripture. Hosea 4 and 6 says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so everything that I do for the body of Christ and our community is to build our base of knowledge, our financial literacy, and to also help people build wealth through real estate. I want to thank you, Pastor, for giving me this opportunity to present this evening. I want to thank Pat and Van Anthony also for recommending me. I appreciate your support and your love. And so, based upon that foundational scripture of perishing due to lack of knowledge, I'm coming to you today with a real estate update. How many of you are aware that Detroit at one time had the highest percentage of African American homeowners from 1968 up until 2007? We had owned property. More than 82% of African Americans in Detroit owned their home, and more than 48% of African Americans in the Detroit metropolitan area were qualified for new mortgages. As of 2007, we have lost our wealth and real estate. Therefore, as of 2017, less than 42% of Detroiters actually own their home. We went from almost 100% down to less than half. 75% of all new loans in the city of Detroit proper go to people who are not native Detroiters. Think about that. 75% of the new mortgages, meaning people who are purchasing land in and around Detroit, do not look like us, and they're not native Detroiters. So let's talk about how that impacts us. And let's talk about how we correct that. And let's talk about why that is. So why did so many Detroiters lose their homes between 2007 and 2010? How do we go from 82% home ownership down to 47% home ownership? How did that happen? I would argue that it's not by mistake. It was because of a lack of financial literacy. It was because of target marketing that encouraged us to get home equity lines of credit and to pull out all of our equity out of homes. And it was because our auto industry contracted. And as a result of us losing our jobs at the factories, we also lost our homes. And so now many of us who used to be homeowners are locked out of home ownership due to credit. And we're probably paying higher interest on our cars, our credit cards, and our insurances. We can change that as a community, though, and it starts with financial literacy and a plan. We must understand what and how we proceed. And let me just share with you how I came to this industry. Yes, I've been featured on HGTV, and I'm happy to be one of the real estate experts in Detroit. But I came from a single parent home. I grew up on the east side of Detroit on Riopelle, which is 3 blocks west of DeQuinder, between 8 Mile and State Fair. My mother was a single mom who did not graduate high school. But she recognized very early on that if we were going to escape poverty, that she had to figure out how to work a job and buy a home. So when I was 10 years old, my mother bought our first home. And that home is what paid for me to go to Michigan State University and to graduate. My mother borrowed money after paying the home off and sent me to school. And I hold an MBA in business and finance. And I'm proud to say that that introduction to home ownership taught me not only to be that homes represent stability for our children and our families, but they also represent a nest egg that can be used to finance the education of the next generation if we approach it conservatively. And so today I'm excited to be in front of you presenting this information to you. So I shared with you that African Americans now have less than half of us own our own home. And why that is due to a contraction in the auto market and loss of jobs and income equal loss of homes. And how do we get that back? Well, we get that back by trying our best to pull your credit for free. There is a Fair Credit Reporting Act that was passed under the Obama administration, which offers you a right to get your credit report for free from all 3 credit reporting agencies. All you have to do is send them a letter requesting your score. They will send you your score. And once you have your credit score, start to work on small things that can improve your credit score. Start paying or making payment arrangements with any of your delinquent creditors, and write this number down. The magic credit score to qualify for an FHA loan is 580. That's 580. If you can get your credit score up to a 580 credit score number, which isn't very difficult to do, you are now qualified to be reintroduced into home ownership with a small down payment. And Michigan now has a first-time buyer down payment program offering free, FREE, free money to help you with your down payment. And that is offered through MSHDA, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. And so let's use these resources and let's use this opportunity now with the lowering of credit scores to help regain some of the wealth that we have lost in our community. FHA was actually introduced in 1934. It was introduced as a way to help struggling non-homeowners have a lower down payment. The down payment was 3.5%. But African Americans actually did not start or have access to FHA until 1968. 1968. And that was due to the Fair Housing Act, which was passed in 1968, which then allowed for African Americans to enter the home ownership market and therefore build wealth. And so I want to give you that historical data because it's so significant in understanding how we were able to send our children to school and to provide a stable home for our children to grow up in and to provide and be a part of neighborhoods and communities. And how we can get that back is not going to be an overnight solution, but it starts with rebuilding credit and it starts with saving. Just save up. Literally, if you save up $1,000 and you have a 580 credit score, you can be reintroduced to home ownership. And so I want to open the floor for questions. But before I do that, let me just share with you what's happening in our market now. We are in a low inventory market. That means that there is low numbers of homes on the market for sale and a high demand from buyers. And remember, I told you earlier that 75% of all the new mortgages are from people who do not look like us and are not from this community. Those are the people coming in and purchasing land in and around Detroit. And so because we have this new group of competitors who are purchasing property in Detroit. The last 5 deals that I closed were all from people who were from New York, were from California, and those people look at Detroit as the best thing since sliced bread because of our affordable housing. So they come in and they buy our properties with cash and they charge high rents to people to live there. And so they're making 20 or 30% return on their investment by purchasing the property here in our area. So we need to know that so that we can do something to reclaim our stake as native Detroiters and become homeowners vested in our community. So because we have low inventory and buyers from outside of Detroit purchasing land in Detroit, that's raising the prices up on property. And so it's imperative now that we try to get into Detroit before the prices are not affordable. And we're moving toward that now. We're moving toward properties being not affordable for the average worker. And that was never the case in the past in Detroit. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the new legislation that's happening in Detroit and in the state of Michigan. How many of you have or know someone that has purchased property with just their husband's name? We started purchasing property in and around 1968. And during that time, most of the time, it was the male or the husband who purchased the home. And in Michigan, there was a law that protected wives called dower rights, DOWER, dower rights. So if a man was married and he purchased a home, his wife was considered an equal owner of the property under Michigan's dower rights law. Under Governor Snyder, dower rights were abolished. Therefore, if a man, married or single, purchases a home, he can purchase that home and use funds from his wife or significant other. But if his name is the only name on the deed to that property, his wife has zero rights to that home. And in fact, the husband can sell that home without her knowledge or consent, even though she may have helped with the financing of the home. And so we need to understand what that means for our families. So it is always assumed that uncle or grandpa or daddy bought the home, but that home belongs to grandma or mom and granddad or dad. That's no longer the case. If the husband passes away, even if he is legally married, if his wife is not on the deed, she now has to go to the county that she lives in. So if you live in Wayne or Oakland or Macomb County, you will have to go to Wayne, Oakland, or Macomb County probate court and ask the judge to grant you ownership in a home that you thought you already owned. What happens if, in fact, this is a second marriage, where maybe the husband is the owner, he remarries, has a new wife, maybe he has children from a previous marriage, and he dies? What happens? Is that wife protected? Can she remain in the house? Not necessarily. She will have to go to court and establish her right to that property. And that is an expensive proposition. And so I'm encouraging everyone, you may think you own your property, but I challenge you to look at your deed. Is your name on the deed? And if it is not, then you do not own your property. That goes for husbands and wives. So let's say, husband, you married your wife. She had the better credit score, and you decided to purchase the property in your wife's name. You have zero ownership interest in the property. It doesn't matter that you live there or that you help pay for it. You do not own it unless your name is on the deed. And it's actually very inexpensive to change the deed and record it. It's less than $450. Whereas if you wait and you have to go to probate court, it could run you into the tens of thousands of dollars if you have challenges or if you have to hire attorneys to help you navigate. And so I'd rather you spend $450 than to have to spend thousands of dollars. Pastor, are there any questions that I can answer?
Jay, yeah, so I'm gonna fire off first, because this is some really, really good information. So I'm kind of gonna share with you something that Teresa and I, my lovely wife, is on. She has her own business, interior design. There she is, right there, the little queen right there.
Hi,
I
Terry.
want to I want to I want to ask you a couple questions from a purely from a standpoint of trying to. So here's what we would like to do as our church. We're thinking about buying a couple of homes, and we want to get those homes to use those homes for part of our vision would be to use those homes for single moms who might be in transition, who are transitioning from an apartment to a home, or for women who may be victims of domestic violence. And we want to kind of use those homes as a rehabilitation place, for learning, for spiritual growth, and all that. And so we're looking at purchasing two, one for women and one for men, because we know there are some men out there who get abused by women. Y'all don't talk too much about that, but it's out there. And so, where would we start? What area do you think would be a nice area? What area do you see has the potential for growth, or what area has would have a nice income for us to buy these two particular homes?
That's a great question, Pastor. Thank you for that question. So, what I heard you ask me is, where should I put my transitional home for mothers or women who are victims of domestic violence and men who may be potentially victims of domestic violence?
Yes, yes.
I can answer that based upon your budget. So, what you want to do is decide how much you can afford to spend on your property. And for the general public, I'm going to give you what we consider in the industry as the standard. You want to take 35% or less of your net income, not your gross, because you don't take home your gross income. There are taxes removed out of that. So let's say your net income is $1,000. Then you don't want to spend more than $350 per month on your housing budget. So first establish what is the 30% of your church's net, and that will dictate your budget. Once you've decided what your budget is, now we need to look at what's the best area to spend those dollars. And if you're saying that my target is women, typically women have children and they look for school district. So now let's look at what are the best school districts I can buy in with the budget that I have, and allow that to guide you to the specific neighborhood or city. I tell people, try to stay in your own backyard, so to speak. So if you live in Macomb Township, and you will have this investment property, you don't want to have to drive to Romulus from Macomb Township. Try to find something closer in where you live, because you're going to need to check on your rental property or your investment property or your transitional home. And then let's talk about how you can save. As a church, if you're set up as a 501c3, most churches don't know that they actually qualify for lower property taxes. Sometimes you can even get your property taxes waived, and that can save you thousands of dollars per year. Will your municipality tell you that? No, they won't. You have to petition that municipality by showing them that this property is owned by a 501c3, and then you will be granted the property tax relief. So we ask not and we don't get it. If you ask, ye shall receive. So ask for the property tax waiver and set your budget based upon 30%, 35% of your net income per month.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Great answer. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Linda McGee had a question on Facebook. I see she's here. I don't know if she wants to unmute and ask it over here. Or I
Hi,
can
Linda.
give her a second. If she doesn't, I'll just read it to you.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to read her question. She says, what can we do to help Detroiters purchase homes in such competitive markets? The land bank offers a discount for Detroiters, but are people using it fraudulently? My mom tried to purchase a vacant lot through the land bank and couldn't because she doesn't live next door. The land is on a block that has no houses, but there was a sign that said it was for sale.
So be careful with property that is listed for sale on some of these fringe websites. You want to stick to the websites that are reputable and also monitored by the authorities. So I would say the Detroit Land Bank's website specifically, that is a appropriate website to bid on property. And then also Realtor, Realtor.com. If you're looking at other consumer sites like Zillow or Trulia, be careful with those sites, because I would say you can look at those sites, but double check them with Realtor.com, because all of the listed property starts out on Realtor.com and funnels to those other sites. If you don't see the property on Realtor.com, but you see it on Zillow or you see it on Trulia, be aware that that property is probably not available. Now let's talk about the Detroit Land Bank. It's a wonderful opportunity to purchase property, but be aware of your budget. The city wants you to own property, but they are offering properties that are not up to city code. And you must show that you have the financial resources to bring that property back up to code within a specific amount of time. And that's where most of the problems are. Some of us might have $5,000 or $10,000. So we bid on properties and we buy them, but then we don't have the funds to actually finance the repairs of the property. And so be careful about that. But the best way Detroiters can invest in Detroit, the best way for Macomb County residents and Oakland County residents to invest in their neighborhoods is to look at your credit, repair your credit, and do not, I repeat, do not pay other people to fix your credit. That is a scam. Utilize the government. FHA has free, FREE, free housing counselors. I'm a certified housing counselor, and we offer our services for free. So go to a certified HUD housing counselor and work on reestablishing your credit score. Remember, the number is 580. That's all you need to get to in order to qualify for an FHA loan. So work with a HUD approved housing counselor, reestablish your credit, save money where you can, and then purchase using that lower down payment loan. If you get approved for an FHA mortgage and you live in Detroit or Michigan, you can apply for MISTA grant funds for your down payment. So you actually can purchase a property with almost zero out of pocket, but you have to have a plan. And that plan starts with establishing your credit score at 580 or higher, and knowing what your budget is. Remember, it's 35% of your net monthly income. If your monthly income is $1,000, then that means your housing budget is $350 per month. I hope that answers your question, Linda. Are there others?
Hi, how you doing? I'm Pat's nephew, so she asked me to come on this evening. But I had a quick question because I've been researching and working towards getting a first time home buyer's loan myself. And one of the questions you mentioned that the FHA loan, the requirement is a 580. But I doing my research and I actually wanted to double check while you were talking. The MISTA loan, that's the one that I was looking at. I think they said the minimum was 640 to
For MISTA, yes.
Yeah.
That's a different loan.
Gotcha. That's what I was going to ask you, like the difference between the FHA and the MISTA loan. I think you just answered that. So the other question that I have is, there was some talk within the federal and private banking sectors about grant opportunities for minorities, particularly millennial minorities who are trying to be first-time home buyers. I think when I read it in February, it was either JP Morgan or PNC that was talking about investing with Black-owned first-time home buyers. Is that program coming up the pike, or is it been put on hold? I haven't heard anything since that time. That's why I was trying to get some understanding of that, or if you happen to know anything that was going on within that. I know it's kind of like iffy because there's a stipulation with discriminatory practices that you got to be mindful about, but I heard that. I was wanting to get it, like, is that true? Because sometimes some things come up as false or something like that. I just wanted to get a better understanding of that.
Yes, thank you, Dario, for your question. So there are specific banks that entered into what's called a consent agreement with the Department of Justice. And the DOJ, or Department of Justice, under the Obama administration, found that some of the lending practices were racially discriminating against certain minority groups. And rather than have them go through a trial, many of the lenders agreed to work with what you'll hear in the industry is low to moderate income minority buyers or first-time buyers. Let's define a first-time buyer. A first-time buyer is anyone who has not purchased property in the last 3 years. So let's say in 2007, I owned a home. I lost my job at the plant. I had to sell my home, and I don't own a home now. Well, I'm considered a first-time buyer under the government's criteria or definition of first-time buyer. Anyone who has not owned a home in the past 3 years. There were 3 banks that were entering into consent judgments with the Department of Justice, or DOJ. Bank of America has a low to moderate income program that is specifically for zip codes in underrepresented areas. So that zip code would include, you can go on their website, but it includes Detroit, Inkster, Melvindale, Lincoln Park, Allen Park, a whole plethora of different cities within Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. So Bank of America has one, Chase has one, and Huntington Bank has one. Now, you asked a question earlier that I want to make sure I am clear about. MISTA gives loans and grant money that's forgivable. They have a specific credit score criteria. That is different. That program is offered under Michigan. That is a state program. But FHA is a federal home housing authority. That's a federal program insurer, and their credit score criteria is different. So every state has their own housing programs that they offer with their specific criteria. And then there's the federal program, which is nationwide. So you can get one or both, but understand that FHA is a 580 credit score, which is across the United States.
Gotcha. Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Yep.
Are there other questions?
Jay, I was just going to say, thank you for that information regarding the websites. I didn't realize that realtor.com is the main one and Zillow and everyone else is second to that. So if you don't see it on Realtor, but you see it on Zillow, chances are it's not even available, the property.
That's correct.
But thanks for that. That's all I was going to say.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All of those sites, Move In Michigan, Zillow, Trulia, they all pull data from realtor.com. So start at the home and work your way down. I want to pivot and just talk about how you can be successful in a seller's market. So Daryelle, you said, I'm looking to buy my first home. And it's a seller's market. So, most people are paying $20,000, $30,000 over asking price for houses. How am I going to be successful? Here are some costly mistakes to avoid. Mistake number one, never call the phone number in front of the yard. On the yard sign, understand that if you call that number, you are talking to a seller's agent. And under Michigan's agency disclosure law, which was passed in 1994, licensees, myself included, realtors who answer the phone, who represent sellers, their job is very specific. That is to get as much information from you to use for the seller's benefit and to get you to pay the highest price possible. So they don't work for you. So that's the first mistake buyers make, is they're so excited about a house that they call the number in the yard and they tell their entire life story. And then that information is used against them for them to pay a higher price. So if you want to avoid that costly mistake, hire a buyer agent. Hire a buyer agent. The buyer agent's job is to get the best and lowest price for you. And why would a buyer agent do that? Because all of our licenses are held by the state of Michigan, and we are governed by them. So if we're not working to get you the best deal, our licenses could be in jeopardy. So if you take nothing away from today, understand that the costliest mistake you can make is to talk to a seller's agent. The next mistake that buyers make, and it's very, very common, is they don't get property inspected. So they're so excited that they finally got a property after maybe losing 5 or 10 that they decide, I don't even want an inspection. I just want to buy that house. Well, understand that buying that house with problems, you now inherit all of those problems. And so that could be a costly mistake, particularly if there are foundation problems, if there are carbon monoxide issues. Now you've inherited potentially a toxic problem that will cost tens of thousands to fix. So never buy a house that you do not get your own independent private home inspection for. The third most costly mistake that buyers make is they buy a house and they don't have a contract that provides them with some guarantees. So what I mean is, you may buy a house and think you've bought it from the owner. How many of us have seen someone on the news? Raise your hand if you've seen someone on the news who gave their money thinking that they bought a house only to find out that it wasn't the real owner. That is a costly mistake. So how do you protect yourself from that mistake, buyer? You make sure that you're working with a qualified licensed agent who has your best interests in mind and who provides you with a contract that requires a warranty deed. That's WARRANTY, warranty deed, and title insurance, TITLE, title insurance. That ensures that you're actually purchasing the property from the rightful owner, and you will have title insurance that the seller pays for that guarantees that ownership. Now, the other costly mistake that buyers make is that they buy property from their municipality's tax sale. So how many of us have known someone who went down to Wayne County, Macomb, or Oakland County's tax sale and they bought a property? Yes, you own the property if you buy it from the tax sale, but guess what else you own? You own the debt. So let me explain what that means. Our municipalities, our taxes have priority on any land sold. So if you don't pay your property taxes, they have the right to foreclose on your home. It doesn't matter if you have other liens on the property. There might be a home equity line lien. There might be a lien from the wall side window guy who installed windows and was never paid. There may be a lien from Aunt Carolyn who lent you money and you never paid her back and she liened your property. So let's say that all of those liens exist. You want to buy property from Mr. Seller, and Mr. Seller loses his house to the tax sale, and you run down to the tax authority, you buy Mr. Seller's home, and you think you own that house. You do, but you also have inherited all of those liens. So if Mr. Seller didn't pay the wall side window guy and there's a $5,000 lien on the property, you now have inherited that $5,000 debt. So be careful if you're buying property from the municipality for back taxes. Understand that you should probably get a title search done to make sure that that property doesn't have liens. I had a guy call me about 5 years ago. He was so excited because he bought a house in Oak Park, a 3-bedroom brick ranch. And he got this house from Oakland County for $20,000. And he was over the moon because he thought, well, this house is worth at least $150,000. I'm going to slap some paint on it and I'm going to put it right back up on the market and make a quick $100,000 profit. And I had to unfortunately tell him There is an old home equity line of credit from the previous owner, and guess how much they owed? They owed $80,000. So, unfortunately, he spent $20,000 to buy a $80,000 debt. He was able to sell that property, but he didn't make any money. So always, always get title insurance. The fifth most common mistake buyers make is that they purchase property with a quit claim deed. Some of you think it's called quick. It's QUIT, quit claim. That is the appropriate and name for that deed. And understand that that deed is the lowest guarantee of ownership possible in the state of Michigan. A quit claim deed really isn't worth anything. It only says and means that I am quit claiming you whatever interest I have in X property. That could be I am one of 100 other owners. So I'm only quit claiming you my 1% ownership. So be careful when you buy properties with quit claim deeds, because that means that it's very possible that there are other owners. Now, let's talk about how to be successful. If you want to be successful in buying property in a seller's market, look while other people are working. So all of my buyers now, I ask them to please sacrifice their lunch hour. If they start work at 9 a.m., I ask them to look at properties at 8 a.m. You have to look while other people are not looking. If you do that and you look at the properties when they first hit the market, you will be more successful in purchasing property in a seller's market. Are there other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me do mine first.
Go ahead.
I'm Jay. I'm asking you a question that was sent in to me on a text message because the person, they're not in, but they actually sent a question. And the question is, what is the process and the length of time it takes to be designated a rental property in Detroit?
That's a wonderful question. Okay. So if you own property in Detroit and you want it to be a rental, the timeframes now due to the pandemic, due to COVID, are longer. You must first pay the fee to register your property. And there is an inspection that comes along with that registration. The inspector will give you a list of deficiencies that must be cured. So it depends on the particular owner. They have to cure all of those deficiencies and then pay for a re-inspection before they are giving a certificate of occupancy for renters. So that process typically takes up to 6 months because of the inspection timeframes given our pandemic situation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I want to flip it for a minute, Jay. Okay. I want to sell property and I want to get the most out of my property. Maybe need little updates or something like that. So what are the things that I can do as a homeowner to get that top dollar for my property?
Thank you for your question. I heard your question as, I'm a seller. How do I maximize the profit for my home? That's a great question. And here's the answer. Invest in your kitchen, invest in your bathrooms. For every $1 that you invest in your kitchen, you will get a return of $5. So if I told you to spend $1 and I would give you $5 back, you would probably take that deal, wouldn't you?
Every day.
Every day. So invest that money in kitchen and bathrooms. And here's what you can do for free. Declutter. Depersonalize. So take those personal photos off the wall. Move out as much furniture as you can so that the space looks open and large. Take out all that stuff out your closet. Take your closet from 4 seasons of clothes down to 1 season of clothes so that your closets look bigger, so that you are selling space. And the worst thing you can do is to try to sell a cluttered space for top dollar. So if you want to sell for top dollar, invest in your kitchen and bathrooms and declutter your space. Also, the least expensive upgrade that you can do is paint. I know some of you love that red and blue and gold and purple paint, and certainly it's beautiful and it fits your personality. But if you are trying to sell your home, you want to depersonalize your home and go with a neutral palette so that the next buyer can see themselves living in your space.
Okay.
Is it okay to have like a nice fragrance going, like vanilla or something, or candle lit or something, if someone's coming to look at the property, a nice smell like something baking or cookies baking or something? Is that a good idea or no?
It is always a good idea to make sure you can pass the sniff test. And I tell sellers, we become really nose dead or smell dead in our own spaces. So you cannot trust your nose in a space that you live in. So invite someone like a realtor in who will give you feedback on what your home smells like. It's particularly important if you have pets, because we definitely do not, it comes a time when you just do not smell your pet, but a person who's never walked in your home will smell it. So if your house smells like cleanser, that's wonderful. Lemon, vanilla, or lavender are all calming scents. You can also bake cookies, but if we're moving into summer, make sure that your house is not too hot. So a summer seller, I tell them, make sure that your house is less than 72 degrees when I walk inside of it. So if you can bake cookies and keep your house between 68 and 72 degrees, then certainly bake those cookies and keep your house cool, and it will certainly sell as long as it is decluttered. There's plenty of light. So cut on all your lights when you're selling space. Make sure it's bright, it's lit, and it's not cluttered, and it smells good. And call a realtor and ask that realtor to give you what's called a comparative market analysis. People will say, well, my neighbor sold 3 years ago for 150,000. And so I want 150,000. Well, the truth is 3 years ago is aged, and real estate really is 90-day cycles at best. When a market as expedient as we are in now, it's 30 days. So every 30 days, we're looking at what the most recent sales are and setting a new price. So you can't look at what sold over 90 days ago. Look at what sold yesterday, last week, and 30 days ago to set your price.
See, Linda wanted to know, how important is it to make sure that no one is home and that the home is clean for the appraisal?
It's very important, particularly with COVID and the spread of COVID now. We are really limited to the number of households that can be in a home at one time. Let me explain what that means. If there's a realtor showing a house, I am one household. If my client is a single person and they want to bring along their significant other, and that significant other doesn't live with them, that's already 3 different households. We want to limit showings to 2 or less households. So if the seller is present, that means the realtor and the client, that could be upwards of 4 different households, and that increases the risk for COVID. So I encourage sellers to trust your agent, leave your home, but lock up your valuables. So lock up your jewelry, make sure that medications like stimulants are not readily available, like opioids. We ask that our sellers remove any opioids, muscle relaxers, or Viagra, Cialis, those type of medications, because it's very difficult if they're in your bathroom medicine cabinet. We may not necessarily see someone open your medicine cabinet because we're not following them in the bathroom. So lock up those medications and jewelry, and then leave your house and let the buyer try to envision themselves in the space. Because if they can envision the house is theirs, they are more likely to purchase it from you. And your goal is to sell it. I hope that answers your question. Are there other questions that I can answer?
I see none.
Okay, well, let me take the last few minutes to give you some words of wisdom. Real estate is the fastest way to build wealth in your family. Certainly, you can invest in stocks and bonds, but as a historical rule, real estate is the way to build wealth. So I encourage you. Some renters are saying, well, you know what? I can't, I want a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom home, and I'm just going to wait until I can afford that. And this is what I tell those renters. You will chase that house and never catch it. So start with what you can afford. Make sure if you have a mortgage, please get a pen and write this down, because this is a little trick that will save you tens of thousands of dollars. Once you buy your first home, and it's not going to be the Shangri-La or your last home, remember it's a first home. And most first-time buyers only live in a home between 3 and 5 years before they get married or have children. Life happens and they end up selling. So when you get your mortgage, if your mortgage payment is $1,200 a month, try to pay $100 extra on your principal only. Why am I saying principal only? It's because if you do not specify principal only, your bank will not put it on the principal. They want to make as much interest as they possibly can. So take your mortgage payment, divide it by 12, and try to make one extra full payment on the principal only. If you do that, you will take a 30-year mortgage down to 20 years. If you pay more against your principal, then you will lessen that 30-year mortgage down to even as low as 10 or 15 years. So let's say my mortgage payment is $1,500 per month. If I divide that by 12, I want to put an extra $125 on my principal only. And you will see how much you will save over the course of your loan. And that's the fastest way to build equity. And the more equity you build, the more money you'll make when you sell that home and purchase your second or third home. So I hope that these tips will help you to become more financially literate and savvy in this very competitive real estate market. So if you're in an apartment now, know that the interest rate today was 2.85%. And you likely can own a home because of how cheap the interest rates are. You can own a home for less than what you're renting that same home for. And why is that? Remember earlier, I told you that 75% of all new loans are from people that don't live in our community or look like us. And so they're buying properties at a cheap interest rate, 2.99, 3.25%. Their monthly mortgage payment is less than $1,000 sometimes. And you're spending upwards of $1,200 to $1,500 for rent on that same property. So that means that they're pocketing at least $2,400 a year in income. Understand what that means from a wealth building perspective. That means that you are paying about $24,000 of rent money and not owning any of it. You're just throwing that money away. And so try to be realistic about what you can afford to purchase. Understand that it's a temporary step, that is an entry-level step that will set you up for a more luxurious second-time home. So look at real estate in terms of phases. Phase 1 is the beginning, where you're going to upgrade to the next level and then upgrade to the next level. Don't try to get a 5-bedroom home in Birmingham the first time out the gate. It's just not realistic. But try to buy what you can afford. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope what I've shared with you today helps to bridge the gap between buying efficiently and buying smart. And you're welcome to call my office or email me at justaskjaye. That's JUSTASKJAYE. justaskjaye@gmail.com. Or you can post any question on my website, which is justaskjaye.com. JUSTASKJAYE.com. Thank you for this opportunity, Pastor. Thank you for your wonderful questions.
There was actually one more question from Linda that I missed.
Go for it.
She wanted to know if there's any tips or programs for commercial property, buying commercial property.
Commercial property is not really an industry that offers down payment assistance. However, even though the residential market is flourishing and is a seller's market, it's exactly the opposite in commercial properties. So raise your hand if you drove past an empty storefront today. Look at all those hands raised. Most of us have driven past an empty storefront. When you see a bunch of empty storefronts, that is an owner who is losing money on their commercial property every day. They're paying taxes, they're paying insurance. Many times they're paying utilities for a vacant property. So I would say understand that commercial is a buyer's market now. And if you're looking to purchase commercial property, this is the best time to do it.
Okay, Jay, thank you so much. Wow, we're excited. So listen, I have a question. So Jay asked the question of how many you drove by empty. What was it, Jay? You asked the question how many drove by empty
Storefront or commercial property
All right,
today.
everybody raise their hand. How many of y'all drove by empty church today? Raise your hand. Lord Jesus, look all the people. Listen, Jay, we have really been blessed. Not only with you, I mean, extremely with you today, because it seemed like to me today, You took all the information that we received over the last 7 weeks and just tied it up and made it like, hey, let's go do this right now type stuff. And I mean, the energy that you brought, the information was crazy, crazy good. And this is part of our, empowerment seminar week. We're doing this for 10 weeks. Dr. Linda McGee was crazy good. We had a credit class. I mean, we've been talking about, we got mental health coming up. We talked about women's health. It's just been marvelous, and we want to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Teresa and I will probably be calling you. We have some additional questions, because we are great visionaries, and we will be moving forward in the purchase of some properties to advance the kingdom of God and helping women and men that way. So again, we're excited. We'll definitely make sure that we'll point people your way. Anybody comes to our church, you are the representative church real estate guru for our church, for the worship center. We're gonna send you an official membership card.
Well, thank you, Pastor and First Lady Teresa. I look forward to helping you and working with you. And certainly do not hesitate to reach out. I am passionate about educating us on how to participate in this market and how to leverage real estate to build wealth. So thank you for allowing me to be your keynote speaker this evening. I truly, truly have been blessed by it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we will be seeing you again. Okay.
Okay,
Come
thank
on, everybody,
you.
give her a hand. Give her a
Oh,
hand.
thank you. It was
Thank you, Jay.
phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
Really was.
phenomenal.
It
Thank
really
you
was.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Hey, all right. Bye, Jay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.